April 20th, 2019. Michael McClain. 29-year-old male Michael McClain was last seen in the early morning hours of April 21st, 2019 in the city of Nashua, New Hampshire. It was a Saturday night when the young man, along with two friends, attended a popular night spot. In the wee hours after the club closed, an altercation in the parking lot separated them, leaving Michael on his own and unaccounted for. After a desperate 2 a.m. phone call to his boss saying he was being chased by multiple people, McClain wouldn't be seen again until exiting a parking garage at 3:30 a.m. that morning. Did the young man escape, fall victim to the nearby river, or was he eventually captured by whoever was hunting him? Michael Mike McClain was originally from Stamford, Connecticut, where he graduated from high school in 2008. Soon after, he would move to New Hampshire and attend Hesser College, later Mount Washington College, where he would graduate with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. After college, he lived with friends in the old mill city of Manchester, where he worked for Easter Seals, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping veterans, the disabled, autistic children, and seniors. The night Michael was last seen, he and several friends drove from their home in Manchester about 19 miles south to Nashua, a smaller city of around 91,000 people, settled on the Merrimack River along Highway 93, about 50 miles northwest of Boston. In the past decade, Nashua had seen some growth, both as a home for commuters and for a small but energetic nightlife scene. It was at one of those nightclubs, the Tropical Lounge, that Michael and his friends would spend the evening. Little is known about what occurred at the club throughout the night, but in the early morning hours of Sunday, April 21st, an altercation between two women broke out in the club parking lot. It was originally said that Michael had attempted to de-escalate the situation, but it was later determined by investigators that he had not been part of the fight at all. By the time police arrived at the club around 1:45 a.m., the crowd had dispersed, and Michael was nowhere to be found. Confused as to why he would leave without telling them, his friends would later tell investigators they waited and looked for Michael an additional 45 minutes, including making multiple calls before returning home to Manchester at around 3 a.m. Although his friends did not see him leave, the idea that Michael fell victim to foul play or some other activity related to the altercation in the club parking lot was immediately disproved, as investigators were able to establish a timeline for the young man through a series of security camera footage found across downtown Nashua. Going solo in all of the footage, Michael is seen walking alone from the nightclub towards the Merrimack River. In some footage obtained by police, he's seen being approached by a car, but it appears he knew who was in it, and the friendly encounter ended without incident, or without Michael getting in. He was also spotted on surveillance cameras at McDonald's at around 2 a.m. His early morning journeys next brought him to the Riverfront Landing apartment complex near Bancroft Street and the Merrimack River. Michael was captured by security footage seen wandering around the complex's parking garage, eventually leaving it at around 3:30 a.m., about an hour and a half after the fight in the Tropical Lounge parking lot. That would be the last time anyone would see Michael McClain. In the days that followed, Michael never returned to his home. He also did not show up for work that Monday, with his phone going directly to voicemail. As time progressed and his family failed to hear from him over the Easter holidays and his sister's birthday, it became obvious something had happened to their beloved family member, and he was reported missing. With no indication that Michael was the victim of foul play, authorities focused their attention on the Merrimack River and the possibility that the young man may have fallen in by accident. The river at that particular time of the year was flowing with a rushing rapid of water from the melting snow. This made the current stronger and more unpredictable than usual, which means if he had fallen in, he could have been carried downstream further than normal or swept under the water in the chaos and caught on debris. According to his family, Michael is a good swimmer, and they believe he would have been able to get to safety if he had fallen in the river. Investigators that were brought in to search were not so optimistic, with many believing Michael may have drowned, with the state of the river making recovery of a body incredibly difficult. A thorough search of the river was completed, involving dive teams and sonar scans, as well as the involvement of Massachusetts authorities who investigated the river downstream where it meets a dam. Unfortunately, investigators came up empty, with no clues or further indication as to where the young man might have gone. Further complicating the events of that night were three unusual and disturbing twists to Michael's disappearance. First, it would later be revealed that around 2 a.m., Michael had made a bizarre and cryptic phone call to his boss. This part wouldn't have been unusual, as the two were friends, and Michael had a history of sometimes calling him for a ride home after nights out. What was unusual and disturbing was what Michael said. According to his boss in the 2 a.m. phone call, Michael sounded out of breath and kept referring to being chased by an unknown group of people, saying, "They're after me. More than one." After being disconnected, his boss attempted to call Michael back, but there was no answer. It was reported that Michael had also sent 3 text messages to his neighbor: "Help, LOL, R," "What stood aloof," and "Eldridge, bro." The last message was determined to be referencing Eldridge Street, which was located near the nightclub. The second twist occurred across the river from Nashua in the town of Hudson, where there was an incident reported by several eyewitnesses who claimed to have heard cries for help coming from across the river on the banks of the Nashua side. Although intriguing, investigators have been unable to determine when exactly those eyewitnesses heard the cries for help, or if it was even Michael making them. A third twist, and possibly the most disturbing, would revolve around theories that Michael's disappearance was related to 2 other missing persons cases in the immediate area. In January 2020, only 3 months earlier, a female and mother in her late 30s, April Bailey, vanished while taking the trash out from her basement apartment in Nashua. In March of that year, only a few weeks before Michael vanished, another woman in her mid-20s, Amanda Grzuski, had also been reported missing after leaving home in the early morning hours. Both women left their cell phones, purses, and other ID behind, and both have yet to be found. There's been no leads or suspects announced in either case, despite hundreds of hours of investigation. Although authorities have consistently stated they do not believe the cases to be related to Michael's disappearance, they have not officially ruled anything out. 2 years after his disappearance, Nashua police have said they continue to receive tips and have left the case in open investigation. Although it's been years since he was last seen, police still have no leads or any better idea of what happened that evening. Why did Michael leave his friends and ignore their calls? Why was he wandering Nashua alone? Was there really a group of people hunting him down? And why was he hiding in the parking garage? Perhaps hiding too close to the riverbank. Although police have managed to rule out some circumstances, they continue to believe that Michael was not a victim of foul play or self-harm. To this day, his body has not been recovered, and there's been no activity on any of his credit cards or social media accounts. McClain's family and friends have not given up that the answers to what happened to Michael remain out there, and they have continued to keep up a presence on social media and are actively in contact with investigators over any new tips or leads that continue to come in. Michael is 5'10" and weighs 190 pounds. He has brown eyes and black hair, which may be in braids or cornrows. He may also have a goatee. Michael has also been known to wear glasses or green contacts, if that rings a bell. He's also been described as having multiple tattoos on his arms and hands, with one of the tattoos says Justice. If you have any information on the disappearance of Michael McClain, contact the Nashua Police Department or the Manchester Police Department. You can request to remain anonymous. With your help, we can bring Michael home.